You are listening to PatchBay on tymkrs.
Welcome to PatchBay, a conversational podcast all about audio equipment, music, audio engineering, recording, live sound, and whatever else happens to come up. I'm sure we've both probably been doing interesting stuff. What are you up to, Shane?
Well, audio-wise, I finished mixing a fiddle record today. I actually put the finishing touches on it. So that was fun, and I have some discussions I can talk about that. And Epic Nachos-wise, I haven't had those, but I got a smoker, and I've been smoking meat every Sunday or Saturday for the last 3 weeks, which is a 5 to 7 hour process on a Saturday, which is a great thing to do in the middle. We've actually finally have summer now. There's no snow. So that's what I've been up to. What about you?
Is that the Winnipeg definition of summer? There's no snow?
There's no snow. Actually, no. There's no snow, and there's construction and mosquitoes. That's the Winnipeg definition of
Gotcha.
summer.
That's similar to where I grew up. We have the 4 seasons, almost winter, winter, still winter, and road construction.
Yeah.
And mosquitoes come with at least the road construction, but often sometimes into the still winter and almost winter areas as well.
Yeah. Almost winter, we definitely still have the mosquitoes. Yeah, they are no fun whatsoever. Anyway, that's sort of what I've been up to. What have you been doing?
Well, let's see. Since last time we recorded, so much stuff I can't even remember. But we sold the first couple of our kits, including some of the high-pass filters. And
Cool.
Been working on getting some other stuff online with that, the electronics kits. A lot of them are audio related too, so some of you guys might be interested in what's going on there. I think it's tymkrs.com/kits. And there's like photos and descriptions and tutorials and stuff. But if you're into music, like instrument stuff and synthesizers and DIY and coding and all that sort of stuff, you'll get a kick out of it. If not, skip it.
Don't skip it. Look longingly at it and keep listening to shows, and hopefully you'll eventually get the nerve to figure it out for yourself. Or beg and plead with you or Addie to do a tutorial video.
Yeah, well, we're working on the tutorial videos for these to make them all really easy to get wired up to do stuff. But, I mean, if you've seen that Proto-Synth video, any of you guys out there, and you think, well, I would really love to have one of those where I can like build a synthesizer on a breadboard that's attached to a keyboard, then this kind of stuff's right up your alley. So, yeah.
Cool. That's fun. That's very fun, actually. I can't do it right now, but I have to check it out afterwards. So I finally sort of finished up that record of the guy that plays the fiddle and plays pretty much everything else. And I just finished doing the last mix today. On Friday, I had a really good day. I ended up doing, like, out of the 12 songs or 13 songs, I think I did 6 on Friday. I was on a friggin' roll. And then today I had it's close, but it's not quite. And then ADD kicks in, and then I don't know. I had difficulty today. And part of the problem was I left some of the harder songs to the end of the mixing process, which you really shouldn't do. You should try and tackle those in the first couple.
Now, when you get into that situation, you just walk away for a few and then come back in fresh ears sort of thing.
Yeah, I tend to. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just switch tunes too. Like I'll be like, it's really close, but I might be doing more damage than good. I call it like seeing through the mix, and you need to sort of. I had a conversation with a friend of mine about that today, and it's kind of Yoda-y, but you have to have fresh ears, but you have to sort of see through it to feel it properly, or to make the subconscious decisions that are supposed to work for it. But
I don't know what it is, Shane, but I just simply cannot bring myself to get like mystical when it comes to audio engineering. I mean, I read all the articles that guys are talking about, like, the essence of the thing, seeing through the thing, becoming one with the thing. No, it's audio levels. Either it sounds good or it don't. Get it done.
Yeah, well, I don't know how to. I'm gonna agree to disagree. But
Well,
for
it's
me,
I don't know
it
if you're
is that, but
understanding me then, because it's like
yeah.
I don't know. It's just the hocus pocus, if you will, about
Hmm.
the stuff that I've never really become attached to talking about it in that way. It's like
Hmm.
I guess I'm just more of an engineer minded type of person because like sure there's something magical that can happen when you separate out two items in the mix off to the left and right channels if they happen to occupy the same basic frequency range. Then putting them off to the left and the right separate from one another allows those speakers or headphone buds, whatever, to each be doing the job in that frequency range instead of both trying to be doing it on two different waveforms at the same time. And you can get clearer and have it cut through more, and the perceived volume is higher on those things, so you can have them lower down. And there's something magical about that to people who don't know why. But once you know why, I don't understand why it still needs to be magic. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, I think to a degree, though, for me, I get out of the literal thought process of it. That's what I'm talking about is switching off the analytical, mathematical part of the brain, and which is why I always refuse to edit and mix at the same time. It's one or the other. But when I get in a groove, it's a lot of stuff like what you were talking about, but it's I'm not having a mathematical conversation with myself about why it works. I just get into listen to it over and over again and work on the I have a process that I do, but sometimes it just doesn't feel like it's gelling for me if you just think about it literally. When I sort of fall into, let's say, trance-like state, um, it either works or it doesn't work. Just to put stuff up, it can be, I don't know. It's hard. Keep in mind too that I'm not dealing with my music. I'm dealing with somebody else's music too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but um, like for example, on some of this stuff, there wasn't completely thought out parts, so I had to kind of make decisions as to not only who was going to play at what time or who was going to get muted, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes I can get into it, and sometimes I can't. And what I did today was I took a break, walked away, breathed some fresh air, came back, actually just left that song where the way it was and just kept working on other tunes till I started to feel good about what I was doing, and then went back and basically was quite happy with what I had and just touched it up a little bit. But I think sometimes you get into that dead zone where you've heard something far too many times too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
However, when you're under the gun,
I've definitely been in that situation before where the best thing is just to put it down, walk away, listen to something else for a little while, and come back. And when you do, you will hear it in a much more related way to how the listeners out there that will get it eventually will hear it. When you're working on it, you don't hear the real thing. You hear the thing, all the little problems that you're trying to fix. You hear those. You don't hear the real thing. And for proof of this, go back and listen to anything you've ever mixed. After 6 months or so, go back and listen to it. You'd be like, "Damn, I'm good," or "Man, I'm really bad at this." One of the two.
Actually, today I went back and listened to some of the previous records I did with the guy to know that I had done it, like that I had gotten it to the right point. But yeah, you're right. You're totally right. Unfortunately, my only problem is on rare occasions, much like today, I was under the gun and had to get it done, which forces a different set of doing exactly what you're doing, but doing it and keeping in mind that you still need to get it done by a certain amount of time. So, yeah, it's being creative under the gun. But yeah, no. Anyway, so I was actually curious to have that conversation with you anyway. So, yeah.
Which one?
The seeing through the mix one.
I don't know. It's
gotten to that.
It seems too new agey to me. I don't know.
I'm not really that new agey though. I mean, I guess
no, you're a pretty down to earth guy. But yeah, I can definitely see why you would why you would approach it that way, because I think it has to do with like once you've done something enough times, you really don't need to think about the math or the science behind it. You can just get on with doing it. And once you've made that disconnect, it's a lot easier to just think of it in terms of, well, in this situation, I lean this way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and what happened to me today was I'm busy on Friday. Part of the other reason why I had a good day on Friday was I locked the control room door. I was like, bleep this. Nobody's bugging me because everybody had been bugging me all week to do all these other things. And I kept like delaying the inevitable, which is why I was under the gun today. But anyway, I locked the door, and then today I didn't because I only had about 4 songs to do or whatever. And at one point I'm like mixing, got my eyes closed, listening back to it, and then I end the song or stopped it abruptly or whatever. I ended it. And then my boss says something to me, and I didn't even realize she was in the room with me. Scared the crap out of me because I wasn't even thinking about anything other than what I was listening to. I don't know if that's ever happened to you before, but it ain't fun.
Yeah, Eddie does that to me from time to time. But for every once that she does it to me, I probably do it to her 8 times, so it's okay.
Well, there you go. It's an 8 to 2 ratio. 8 to 2 compression. Anyway, so that was the one thing I needed to talk about, and right.
So what do you mean when you say seeing through the mix? In more engineer-like terms, what do you mean by that?
Like listening to the whole picture, not listening to just the bass or just the kick or just, an edit, or being able to jump back and forth between listening to how the background vocal and the vocal are together with themselves, and then switching your perspective to, is the background vocal and the lead vocal too loud in the mix or too quiet in the mix, but like what they are in relation to each other as well as in relation to the whole mix, but jumping back and forth between those two. For me, it's about building it, and then, which is exactly what you're talking about. All the mathematical things are happening just as a second nature thing, but sometimes I can't get to that point. Like, so for me, I have to get past the rough mix stage of it to get into the seeing through the mix stage of it. And sometimes when it's a more difficult tune or the arrangement isn't completely sorted out, and that's when I have difficulty, because I'm going in and I'm doing edits and I'm arranging it and deciding that this person's taking the fills on this verse, and then getting back to seeing it as a big picture again can be difficult because you're switching the side of your brain. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I can't turn off that part of my brain. I don't know why. I think I remember the exact moment when it was turned on. When I was, I don't know, maybe 12 years old or so. I was in the car with my dad. He's driving, and he's got the radio on. And there's this Elvis song on, and he was like, hey, name every single instrument that's being used right there.
Nice.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm listening very carefully, and I notice a very, very subtle cowbell buried deep in the mix. And he's like, yep, that's the one you're looking for. And ever since then, I haven't been able to turn that ability off. I can always hear everything now.
Yeah, and like I do too, but I don't know how to explain it. It's a subconscious thing, like, mixing where the relationships between everything just gel as time goes on. I still use faders when I'm mixing, so and a lot of automation, not on every song, but so I'm doing rides, like millisecond rides that are happening through the tune. So you have to be in the trans stupid state. I don't know how to explain it.
That's a good way to say it, actually. The trans stupid state. Yeah.
The only way to explain it is for you to sit behind me. And then here's the thing, is to try and explain it. You can't explain it because, like, I'm jumping to an EQ on something because I did an adjustment on a volume on something else and realized that adjustment sounded good in the mix, but I needed to make a slight adjustment on EQ on something else to make it still pop but not in the same frequency range. Stuff like that. It's like if I had to take the time to stop to explain it, I can't. I just need to see if it makes the difference, or I have to go back, turn that other thing down that that's all those little decisions that are happening in your brain while, it's weird. That's basically it. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So I saw somebody mention something that I thought you might have heard of or at least find interesting, because the topic's come up a couple of times. When cutting vinyl, it's important not to have your lower frequencies panned left or right. And we've talked about this on the show before. Not that we think any of you listeners are planning on cutting vinyl yourself, but it's just an interesting topic. I saw somebody mention something that I think they called an elliptical equalizer.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Evidently, what they have is a roll-off point, and anything below the roll-off gets panned to center, and it's for mastering for vinyl. So it automatically takes the bass information with an analog roll-off and brings all the low-frequency content to be panned to center.
That makes a bit of sense.
It does.
It's not like you're going to pan a bass drum on one side and a bass guitar on the other side.
No, we wouldn't, because that's like we know we're doing enough to just put it there originally. Yeah, we wouldn't do that. But imagine when you're recording to vinyl live and you got things coming in on all these different channels and whatever, like they used to, cut directly to it.
Yeah.
Then this sort of thing would be very, very nice.
I don't know if they ever did that when they were originally cutting it in the first place. I don't know if they would have an elliptical EQ.
No, I'm sure that the invention was later, but I'm just thinking of it because
trial and error, obviously.
Because Addie showed me something today, and I'm thinking of the live to vinyl thing because evidently in Nashville, Jack White's little record store there, what is it? Third Man Records. He's got this booth where you can go in the booth, insert some change, and play or sing your instrument or whatever into the microphone, and it cuts it live to vinyl on a 45, and you can bring your 45 home with you.
Yeah, that's just badass on so many levels.
It is, but but an elliptical EQ would allow you to do that same idea, capture a live performance onto EQ while maybe having more than one microphone, maybe having a mixer, maybe, live in my studio here. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I guess, like the elliptical would pull, like if you've got stereo acoustic guitars, it's going to pull everything below 40 and pull it.
Yeah, and it's for like broad frequency band stuff. It's going to leave the high end pan, and it's going to, or stereo spatialized or maximized or whatever you've done to it. It's going to leave the higher end separate, and then it's going to bring the lower end together so that you get rid of most of your mud, which makes a lot of sense, not just for vinyl, but basically, like Shane said, we don't put our kick drum off to the left or the right. We don't put our big heavy synth bass line left or right. We put that stuff center because we want both those speakers driving that SPL.
Yeah, vibrating like a son of a bitch. What I was going to say too, though, I just figured out how to test that theory. Not with what I was worried about was the audio quality, if it would even be noticeable.
I think it would improve audio quality, honestly.
I think so too, but I was just trying to figure it out in my head while you were talking. Let's say, for example, my stereo acoustics situation. You could make a stereo track of two acoustic guitars playing in stereo or recorded stereo. And then how to do it in Pro Tools or in audio or in a DAW to see if you'd even notice a difference is bounce down, stop me if this is wrong, bounce down the stereo mix of the acoustic guitars, then duplicate the stereo tracks or the audio tracks, roll everything off except for 40 and pan those ones center, and then roll everything off after 40 and pan those ones stereo, and then you're going to be basically doing the same effect then.
Yeah.
Right?
And in GarageBand, I use Guitar Rig, as many of you guys know, and Guitar Rig actually has stackable outboard equipment, and one of the pieces of equipment allows you to split the frequency, split the signal by frequency with a roll-off. So you would split it that way, and you got your A and your B, and you would, in your A, you'd pan it to center, and in your B, you'd leave it left or right, depending on which side you were working with at the time. And yeah, it would be very easy to do with those tools.
Yeah, it sounds to me almost like using a mid-side encoder to a degree, which I haven't really completely wrapped my brain around yet. I think we both should do our homework and then try to wrap our brains around MS recording, because it's a fairly interesting way of capturing stereo sources. We'll leave that to another time. But yeah, no, that's really cool. So obviously this elliptical thing has only kind of come around in the last few.
No, it's old equipment.
No?
It's old equipment.
Oh, okay.
The guy that mentioned it is a guy who is cutting vinyl again in a studio that used to cut vinyl but stopped doing it because they didn't want to keep doing the maintenance on the equipment. So the stuff sat for years and years and years. And then one of the younger guys at the studio said, "Hey, why don't we start cutting vinyl again?" And got the stuff up and running, got the electronics all checked out and working right again. And he was talking about this elliptical EQ that was from the old collection of stuff. So it's got to be 70s or earlier that this technology comes from. And I'd never heard of it before, so I thought I would share it.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm going to be doing some research after the show. That is neat. How are we doing on time? We're almost out of time, aren't we?
Oh, no, we got about 8 minutes.
We got one more topic. Okay. The one thing that was brought up to me just lately was, do you have any technique on room mics? Because I kind of do, and I kind of just half-assed it, usually.
Well, I haven't really done room miking since doing like choirs and live stage like plays and stuff. So I don't know.
Right. Well, Colin had talked to me about it briefly, and for me, I like to kind of throw them up whenever I'm sort of recording anything, and those ones are usually the no rhyme or reason ones. But normally, like if I have a full band situation, I'll try to sort of do a triangle kind of thing where the drums are in sort of one corner and the band is around him, and then the mics are sort of behind them in maybe a half a semicircle kind of thing. But I don't really ever worry about the sort of 3-to-1 rule per se. I just, because it's so far away that it's really just picking up room and reflections anyway. You're past the point of really worrying about any kind of early reflections happening. So that's sort of how I've always kind of gone about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first things I would probably try would be to take like the classical approach, like classical music approach, where they take a pair of small diaphragm condensers in 45-degree angles.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to work pretty well. Also, putting them on a bar right next to each other and facing forward can work really well. So those are tried and true tricks for getting a good stereo room image. And the other way that I've seen that I've really enjoyed is the old school sort of 50s era way of doing it, where they take a tube ribbon mic and they'd put it up on a big heavy boom and they'd put it right up above and they hang it up. They had a lot of success doing that back in the day, but I mean, that you're talking about really expensive toys. So
yeah, I usually tend to sort of do that kind of idea as far as getting the mics up as pretty much high as I can. I don't hang them up from the roof, although I certainly could in my studio, but it requires a ladder. So Just lazy, I guess. And also don't really want a mic hanging from the ceiling, but but I should try that on some occasion. I know I've read good things about guys doing that room micing guitar amps like that, where they have like the sacrificial mic in the ceiling that they ran the cord up there and then taped it up there. I think on the Ramones records they used to do that a lot, which makes sense if you listen to the Ramones records. They're big and open and crazy sounding, you know.
So yeah, I think those are the standard sort of ways that you'd first start to think, and then you've got like I was saying, theater stuff where you're hanging those little what do they call them?
Lavs?
No, they're not lavs. They're the
boundary mic.
They're the high quality ones that hang on the end of a little tiny wire, and they've got a little bit of an angle down at the bottom. So when you hang them, you can point them in the right direction. I forget, it's been years, but you can get good results with those for choirs and for live talking sort of audio. But I don't know. I've never used them for recording per se.
I would be curious if do you used to mic the stage as well when you were doing stuff, like as far as getting like the footsteps and that kind of stuff? Or did you not really worry about that?
We had one of those Shure boundary mics, the flat ones. Sometimes we would put that right on the front in between the two monitors on the stage if we needed to do like tap dance stuff or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be probably. I would think that really for dancing, I think would be the only time you'd really want to use it, or somebody jigging or something.
Most of
like
the time, you're trying to get rid of the footstep noises. You're not trying to add them in. But for tap,
exactly.
Yeah, you kind of want
it. Yeah. Well, there's a few Canadian characters that actually bring plywood out, and they mic the plywood that they dance on. So I'm sure that was part of it as well, the old boundary mic thing. But that was part of the shtick, you know. So different. But yeah, no, I was just curious because we talked about this before, but haven't done a lot of live theater sound production, and it would be a fun thing to do. I'm sure lots of hair pulling, but I've done one or two. But yeah,
you only get one
sound
take.
Design's fun.
You only get one take, and you're doing it with an audience there too. So yeah.
Yeah, every time I do those, I wear a balaclava and a black T-shirt so that nobody knows I'm the sound guy. Because 9 times out of 10, they always look at you anyway. Like, oh, it's too loud. Oh, the actor was farting around with his mic, and his mic isn't working. It must be the sound guy's fault. You know.
Totally.
I'm getting antsy. I'm sorry. Yeah.
All right, so we got like 2 minutes here, and I just wanted to give people heads up. We're obviously recording this a little in advance, but a couple of weeks ago, as in a couple days from now, figure that one out. I'm going to be putting a video up on... We're time traveling again. We do that, folks. I'm going to be putting up a video of the ever-popular Protosynth. What I did last night was took our Shift Me kit and our Turn Me kit, and I installed them on the Protosynth, and I built a little demonstration unit that has a step sequencer, a bassline sequencer, and the live keys work for playing, and you can program the bassline by holding down the beat button and holding down which key you want it to play, and you can turn each note on, each beat on and off. You can turn each beat of the drum on and off, and you can change the tempo by turning the little knob, and you can change the decay on the bass line with pushing the knob and turning it. So for those of you out there who like the Protosynth and wanted to see more of it, there will be a video on the channel doing some like live performance chiptune stuff on it.
Cool. I'm excited. And as a side note, too, since we're talking about websites, remember all the shows are at tymkrs.com/shows now, right?
Yeah, you can still get the everything through the old addresses. The patchbay.tv will always work.
Yeah, if you type that, it goes straight to Toymakers, right?
It goes to tymkrs.com/shows, which is where all of our podcasts go up. And PatchBay is become more of our principal show that we're doing. Because my time is somewhat limited working on the kit things, we've laid off a little on the first spins and the zombie techs, and we've been focusing more on this because as much of a chucklehead as he is, Shane is a lot easier to work with than random guests every week. So,
yeah, and I think people like the fact that I'm a goof.
yes.
Maybe. Or maybe they just, maybe it's the consistent goofballness. I don't know. But you said it nicer. So I appreciate that.
No problem.
All right.
All right, guys. Like we said, you can find this show every week at patchbay.tv. And I wanted to remind everyone, if you have any topics, questions, whatever that you'd like to hear us talk about on the show, the email address is feedback@tymkrs.com. And chances are we will probably talk about your topic. Because that means we don't have to do as much work to think of stuff. So we appreciate that. And it's helpful to you. So it's win-win. We get to slack. You get help. It's all good. That's all the time we have for this week. We'll see you guys later.